Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. If you're like me and you've been studying for step 1, or it could be any other exam that you're preparing for during quarantine, then I guess it'll help to talk about what helps you stay motivated during such a difficult time. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what I found out works best for me in terms of like motivating myself to actually get things done during the day and during quarantine. And yeah, let's get started. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit and mention, I guess, like what my living condition is and how I came to the US. I'm probably going into like more details in a separate video about like how I transitioned from moving to the Philippines, rather from the Philippines to the US. So I came to the US last year, early last year, and I came here on my own. And keep in mind, I came to pursue this USMLE journey not having any connections, anything like that. I did not personally know any doctors that were working here in terms of being able to find somebody who could mentor me or I could shadow. None of that. So I basically started from scratch. Did not also have a lot of people that were taking the USMLEs at the same time as me. So if I did know somebody, our timelines were very different and we were going at very different, I guess, like pace-wise, it was very different. Came here on my own, got my own apartment, lived on my own, and have been away from my family for almost 2 years now. And I came here not having any friends, so there's a big adjustment period. And I mentioned this because it had a lot to do with how I felt very demotivated at the beginning of this journey. So it took me a long time to be in the mindset that I am in right now, and I don't want you all to think that just because I'm talking about what works for me and how I'm motivated during this time doesn't mean it just happened overnight. This took a long time. I would say months for me, and I still feel like there's no way I'm an expert in this. Obviously, I'm just going to mention what I've found out works for me, and hopefully this will help give you some ideas and put things into perspective. So I'm going to go through a couple of things that I've found have been very helpful for me in terms of learning how to motivate myself. The first thing that I like to do in the morning, especially before I go into like a full day of studying, is I make time for prayer. So it's just, I guess some people do meditation in the morning, some people like to listen to relaxing music. We all have our respective morning routines or pre-study routines, and for me, it really helps to say a little prayer, kind of like the song. But I do like to, it doesn't have to be very lengthy, I just like to kind of talk to God a little bit, and it puts me in a better mindset and a better mood. So yeah, that's the first thing I like to do to help keep myself motivated. Another thing would be for me to plan a routine, or find a routine rather. So I think I mentioned this in my previous video about step 1 and the resources and the study schedule that I follow. Again, it took me a long time to find a routine, and I think when you don't really have a set routine, it just feels very monotonous, and it feels like makes days feel a little more dry. Figure out what works best for you. Theo's on my lap at the moment trying to get attention from me, but yeah, figure out a sound routine for you and give yourself some time to figure it out. It won't happen overnight, like I mentioned earlier, so just take some time and figure out the pros and cons of following a specific routine that fits you specifically. Alright, so another thing that keeps me motivated is I need to plan at least like a night before what I'm going to do. So today is Saturday, and I had written down what I needed to get done tomorrow, just so I have an idea. I don't plan weeks ahead because I tend to get disappointed if I don't accomplish it, and then I just feel like I just feel kind of sloppy. So I base it on what I get done the day before, and then I plan for the next day. And I also have these stick-ons to help remind me. I think these are really neat. I just got this from Walmart, I think. But yeah. Another thing I find helps motivate me is to keep in constant communication with my family and my loved ones. So I mentioned earlier, I came here to the US alone. I sort of maximized my independence when I came here, and I decided to pursue the USMLE journey. As a Filipino, it's not common for people to live away from their parents unless they're married, and sometimes you even stay or have your parents live with you even when you're married and when you have kids. So I am, I think, innately very independent, and coming here and trying to find an apartment on my own and not having any friends, not having any family, was very, at first, it was very new to me. I have to admit, I felt very demotivated just because I felt like I didn't know anybody. Obviously, I'm in a foreign country, did not know, where to go and things like that, and I couldn't really, spend time with other people because I felt very isolated. And I feel like there are a lot of people who embark on this process with like a spouse who's also in medicine, or they live with family in a certain state or city. And so, coping or adjusting to a new country makes it easier. I'm able to motivate myself is to follow a reward system. So I know it sounds funny, what the heck is a reward system? I mean, obviously you guys already know, it's pretty self-explanatory. So in my situation, I do it through, rather in the form of sleep, food, and binge watching a series that I really like. So let's say I'm 6 hours down during the day, finish 6 hours of studying. Obviously at that point, I'm exhausted, my brain needs to take a little break. I tell myself that after the 6 hours during the day, I'm gonna reward myself with a nap. So that kind of like pushes me to make sure I get the 6 hours done. I don't really take breaks in between. Again, this isn't for everybody. It could be, 50-hour study sessions and then 10-minute breaks in between. I know that's exactly like the concept behind the Pomodoro method, where there are breaks in between, but I just want to get it over with and have one long break where I actually give myself time to take a nap. And in terms of food, it gives me something to look forward to at the end of the week. So I guess, and not just motivating myself in terms of studying, but also keeping myself healthy, because throughout the week ooh, that's my alarm. So throughout the week, I do make a conscious effort to really eat healthy. So I approach this by, picking or eating more whole foods, and I'm more conscious about, the labeling on the packaging. I didn't used to be conscious, like I said in my previous video on step 1. I'm a voracious eater, and I will eat a lot of deep fried foods, and they're processed, and they're just salty and sweet. So yeah, this is a big change for me, but I already feel the difference, so I will stick to it. And on the weekends, I give myself a treat day where I basically eat whatever I want. Now, I don't binge, just because it's one day of the week where I get to eat whatever I want. I don't really binge, but I do choose food that will, satisfy my cravings, and I don't eat up to the point where I feel like throwing up. Either way, I love food, and I love to find different ways to enjoy it. So I'll just choose like healthier alternatives, like dark chocolate instead of milk chocolate, and yeah, I'm stuck thinking about all the food that I want to eat right now. So let's move on to the next one. Alright, so another thing that helps keep me motivated is I like to keep my stethoscope somewhere I can see it. I know it's a little bit gross right now, and it's kind of, it looks a little neglected, but don't mind that. It's just a reminder of what I went through when I started using this, and oh my gosh, Theo, of course. So yeah, I like to keep it somewhere I can see, just so it reminds me what I'm here to do. And I know a stethoscope is kind of, it signifies, it's kind of the brand of a physician, so this really helps me. Another thing that really helps me is, I guess, keeping in mind that I'm not the only one going through this at the moment. Backtracking a little bit to what I said about feeling isolated and stuff. Physically, yes, it is isolating because you live, eat, breathe USMLE. Really, like you don't have any other choice but to study. Other people have families that they need to take care of. A lot of people come here with their kids and their husbands, and they're not just doing the USMLE, prep every day. They have other things to manage and take care of. But I like to think that there are people who, are in similar situations as me. I am 100% not the only one going through this. I think the reason why there are even people who will be watching this is because you're kind of in the same boat as me. So I think that's one of the main reasons why I started my Instagram account, because I wanted to feel less alone and more involved with a community who could relate to what I was going through. And I have been able to, people have reached out to me on Instagram and through email even. I know that sounds kind of like, I sound like a cheesehead right now, but I love it when people reach out to me and say they kind of like are happy. Somebody who is talking about the experience, and I think it also is a way for me to express what I'm going through at the moment. It's actually pretty therapeutic. So yeah, you're not alone. I mean, the fact that you're watching this video, I'm going through it, you're going through it, and everybody else is going through it. I mean, everybody who's in the USMLE journey, of course, so you're not alone. It's funny because I do like to keep in mind that the USMLE journey is very expensive. So I think about things like, well, if I'm spending almost $1,000 on one exam, there's no way I want to repeat this exam and spend another, $900 or $1,000 just to pass. So I like to bear in mind that I would rather not fail or have to retake this exam or get a good grade instead of having to pay for another round. I know it sounds silly, but we're all kind of spending a lot of money for this process with the key banks and all the resources just to make sure that we're covering enough for the exam. So that's what I keep in mind. Another thing, I'm not sure if it helps or it counts as like finding ways to keep me motivated, but I feel like it helps me put things into perspective. So I like to tell myself I am naturally I'm a chronic overthinker, and I'm usually very anxious about a lot of things. So I tend to be very hard on myself. And when I'm hard on myself, it just kind of creates this domino effect, and it creates a lot of negative self-talk. So my mom helps remind me not to be too hard on myself and to just keep doing things one day at a time, because I like to think, 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, and I get really anxious just thinking about it and planning. What if things don't go right? What if things go wrong? And my mom's just like, hush, take things one day at a time, which I keep having to remind myself. And that's why, it's important to like find ways to calm your mind and to keep yourself centered and grounded, just so, you don't spiral and you don't end up neglecting yourself as you, continue taking the USMLE. All right, so I think for me, the most important thing that keeps me motivated is I make a conscious effort to remind myself to be grateful. I can only speak on my behalf, and like I said, everybody's situation is different, but for me, I feel very lucky because I guess like my only job right now is to make sure that I pass these exams. I'm not pushing aside the fact that this is very draining. This is, like I keep saying, the USMLE Step 1, for example, is given the nickname The Beast for a reason, just because it's so hard to, get past it and overcome it and just even find the will to study every day. But I like to think that I am in a safe environment. I know that my family and my friends are also safe. They're healthy. I'm not, disabled in any way. And I think, even with our five senses, we tend to take that for granted. And that's why, if you follow me on Instagram, I always put on my digital to-do list at the end of it to always be grateful, just because it makes such a big difference. My mom always reminds me, when I wake up first thing in the morning, the first thing that you should think about is, how grateful you are to even wake up the next day as a healthy human being. And you also need to keep in mind that you need to see what you have instead of what you don't have. And that just changes everything. It took me a long time to see things in that way, but coming here to the US, and I think even a couple years before I made this transition, I was already slowly getting there, and I think it also helped because I did come from a third world country. I'm not saying I was financially unstable, but it always helps put things into perspective when you see what you have in life and you're actually grateful for all the blessings that you have. And if you think about it, your only job at this moment is to make sure that you pass, and that all you gotta do is study. I know it sounds easier said than done, but it helps. It helps kind of, in the grand scheme of things, it makes my problems look very, very small. I'm not trying to say, my emotions are insignificant to what I am feeling at the moment, but it helps me just, I guess it helps push me be, motivated and grateful. Alright, so that's pretty much it for today. I'm glad you guys took some time to listen to me. I'm going to leave my Instagram and email in the description box in case you guys want to reach out. I am going to be working on another video that's related to medicine, and I posted a poll on my IG stories asking if you guys wanted to watch a video on bullying in the medical field or the healthcare system. I've had a lot of experiences before, and I want to create a video talking about it, going into, going in depth and mentioning what it's like in different countries within the healthcare system. So that's what I'll be working on when I film my next video, so I hope you guys check that out. And yeah, thanks for watching. I can't believe it's almost September. 2020 is almost over, you guys. Anyway, bye.